In a dramatic escalation of hostilities between the newly minted King Charles III and his self-exiled younger son, Prince Harry, the reigning monarch has reportedly unleashed a torrent of unbridled rage upon the Duke of Sussex, issuing a stern and unequivocal warning for the wayward prince to abandon any notion of inquiring into the details of the late Queen Elizabeth II's last will and testament. The explosive confrontation, which has sent shockwaves coursing through the ranks of the royal family and cast yet another pall over the increasingly fractious relationship between the once inseparable father and son, was sparked when Harry made what palace insiders have described as an innocent inquiry into whether his grandmother had left him any personal effects or mementos in her will. It was little more than a politely phrased question, born more out of sentimentality than any sort of materialistic desire, confided a source close to the California-based prince, who spoke on condition of anonymity given the sensitive nature of the matter. Harry had no inkling that such a seemingly innocuous query would ignite such a maelstrom of fury from his father. However, Charles's reported reaction to his son's inquiry could hardly have been more severe or unrestrained, with multiple palace aides recounting scenes of the newly minted monarch erupting into an ear-splitting torrent of rage, his face purpling with apoplectic fury as he unleashed a blistering rebuke upon the unsuspecting prince. "How dare you?" Charles is said to have thundered, his booming voice echoing through the ornate corridors of Buckingham Palace with a ferocity that left more than one member of the royal household visibly shaken. "How dare you presume to inquire into matters that no longer concern you, you wretched, ungrateful little beast?" The diatribe, by all accounts, did not end there, with the king segueing into a blistering litany of grievances and recriminations that laid bare the full extent of the enmity he now harbors for the son he had once embraced as his heir apparent. "You've spat upon the institution that was your birthright, betrayed the legacy bequeathed to you by your very blood," Charles raged, his words laced with equal parts fury and undisguised contempt. "And now you have the audacity, the unmitigated gall, to come crawling back, sniffing about for scraps like some mangy cur at the table?" According to witnesses, it was at this point that the king's tirade took an even darker turn, as he issued a chilling warning to the prince, one that left no ambiguity as to the depths of his ire or the severity of the consequences should Harry persist in his inquiries. "Let me be unmistakably clear," Charles is reported to have seethed, his eyes narrowing into thin slits of barely contained rage. "You are no son of mine, no scion of this family or its hallowed traditions. You are a wretched, treacherous little ingrate who has squandered every privilege and opportunity bestowed upon you by the grace of your birth." The venom continued to flow, each word a dagger aimed squarely at Harry's increasingly fragile psyche and sense of belonging within the folds of the royal firmament. "You'll receive not a single farthing, not one miserable possession from my mother's estate, do you understand?" the king thundered. "The only inheritance you'll reap from this family is a legacy of shame and disgrace, a cautionary tale of what befalls those who betray the crown they were born to serve." In the aftermath of Charles's volcanic outburst, a pall of stunned silence has descended upon the royal ranks, with aides and advisors scrambling to assess the fallout and potentially irreparable damage wrought by the monarch's unrestrained fury. For Harry, the confrontation has proven to be nothing short of psychologically devastating, a brutal evisceration of any remaining ties or goodwill between father and son that has left the self-exiled prince reeling and teetering perilously on the brink of an emotional abyss. "He's utterly shattered, it's like the final nail in the coffin of his relationship with his father and the royal family," the source confided, their voice thick with sorrow and disbelief. To have such vitriol and contempt hurled at him, to be so thoroughly disowned and cast aside like a piece of refuse, it's left him questioning everything, his identity, his place in the world, even his very sense of self-worth. The psychological toll of the altercation has been compounded by the very public nature of the rift, with news of the king's scathing rebuke quickly leaking into the media sphere and setting off a firestorm of speculation, commentary, and intense public scrutiny. For many royal watchers and pundits, Charles's unrestrained fury has struck a deeply discordant note, seemingly at odds with the monarch's carefully cultivated public persona as a level-headed, even-keeled leader ushering in a new era of modernity and transparency within the monarchy's ranks. This was King Charles at his most unhinged, his most petulant and vindictive, opined longtime royal author Tina Brown, her words carrying a barely concealed undercurrent of disappointment. To see him unleash such unbridled rage upon his own flesh and blood, to disown Harry in such a brutally public fashion, it betrays an ugliness of character that is deeply unsettling coming from the head of state. Others, however, have rallied to the king's defense, asserting that his furious tirade, while undoubtedly excessive, was born of justifiable exasperation with a son who has repeatedly scorned and defied the very institution to which he was born to serve. Let's not lose sight of the fact that it was Harry who initiated this conflict, who chose to not only abandon his duties but to then wage a very public campaign of character assassination against his own family, argued former Buckingham Palace Press Secretary Dickie Arbiter. The king's reaction, while perhaps over the top, stems from a place of deep hurt and betrayal. He's a father who has had to watch his son repudiate everything he was raised to uphold and respect. As the recriminations and hand-wringing over the monarchy's latest familial conflagration continue to swirl, the question of what lies ahead for the increasingly estranged Prince Harry looms large and uncertain. Will this latest, most devastating of rebukes from his own father prove to be the final impetus for Harry to sever what few remaining ties still bind him to the royal fold? Or will it, paradoxically, prompt a moment of reckoning, a re-evaluation of the scorched earth path he has chosen that could, however improbably, lead to some form of reconciliation with the family he has so publicly renounced? Only time will tell, but one thing is clear: the chasm between Charles and Harry has grown deeper and more cavernous than ever before, a rift that may prove too wide and too resentment-filled to ever be bridged again. As the dust settles on this latest, most acrimonious of royal feuds, it is a shattered, adrift Prince Harry who emerges from the wreckage, faced with the stark reality that any inheritance he may have hoped for from his revered grandmother has been lost, save for the bitter, blood-stained legacy bequeathed to him by an enraged father who has made it excruciatingly clear that, in his eyes, Harry is no longer worthy of calling himself a son.